Above all, Laudato Si is an evangelical document. It's a document you'd give if someone says to you, I'd like you to give me a document that captures what it is, what it might be to be a Christian in the world in the 21st century. Short enough document, maybe 100 pages. I'd give them Laudato Si. I'd say that's the document. It deals with all of these issues. It deals with sacraments. It deals with the Eucharist as a cosmic sacrament. So it expands the imagination, and that's what we need in the Christian world. We need an imagination that's expanded so it captures people and it evokes from them, this is what I'd like to devote my life to. This is the only thing worthwhile devoting my life to. We all have, no matter how long we live, we've shortened lives. But Laudato Si is saying this is where we should, all our energies should be put into sustainably living and living in a way that the vast majority of the people have sufficient of the foods of the world to actually survive and live and interact with each other and praise God.
Laudato Si is a huge break. He uses this word. It's a very readable document, except a couple of words like anthropocentricity. Anthropos is the Greek word for human. So it's an extraordinary breakthrough in creation theology. And why is it? Because it's the first document that actually recognizes the magnitude of ecological destruction and the urgency with which it must be faced.
Before this, we were in Kinder. Like if you go to the most recent document to Laudato Si was the Compendium of the Social Teachings of the Church. It was published in 2004, which is only 11 years ago from Laudato Si. There's only 15 pages on God's creation. There is only a half a paragraph on climate change. There is only a half a paragraph on biodiversity. And there are 9 paragraphs on genetically engineered crops. So in other words, what Laudato Si is, there's a huge amount of new doctrine. For example, he quotes Patriarch Bartholomew, who was the patriarch of the Greek Orthodox Church, patriarch of Constantinople. And he says, if we do this to the climate, if we destroy biodiversity, if we toxify the waters. And then what does he say? He said, these are sins. Now I say to everyone, stop there, because none of us have believed these are sins. In our world, we believed to be a Christian, your relationship with God, your relationship with other humans was the focus of your Christian life. Now he said, no, that's not sufficient. There are 3 intertwined interrelationships, and this is one of them.
So he gives him pride of place, the moral responsibility to protect creation. So just listen to it. For human beings to destroy the biological diversity of God's creation. For human beings to degrade the integrity of the earth by causing changes in its climate, by stripping the earth of its natural forest or destroying its wetlands. For human beings to contaminate the earth's water, its land, its air, and its life. So he's talking here about moral action. So what do we say? What's our understanding for humans to do any of those things? Well, I think we'd say, well, it's not a good thing to do, and if you could you please stop it? Wouldn't we? But he doesn't say that. He said these are sins. Now here's the first place where we should drop the encyclical, because there's not one of us here believes that. We don't. We were not brought up as Christians to believe that.
Now, what it needs to happen is Christians need to stop at that and say, is this the way I live? Do I have concerns, moral concerns for what I do to the environment? And if I don't, I should begin to have. So our moral imagination has now to expand to include this, as well as the things we knew were wrong, like killing people, telling lies, committing adultery, you name it. The very same is true when it comes to the whole area of spirituality. It's the first time we've ever heard that other species have intrinsic value. Intrinsic value. So that tree out there has intrinsic value. Its life and my life are being lived out at the same time. It's going to live longer than me. It has a lot of things it might tell me about. If I was in Ireland beside an oak tree, it would tell me this tree supports 400 different species. How much do you support in your life? So it's telling me now, if I want to be a person of spirituality, I can't just be pious and be talking to God and praising God and be good to my neighbor, I also now have to enter into a relationship with all the creatures around me. At least I have to know their names. I have to be like Adam in chapter 3 of Genesis, when God asked him to name all the creatures. I'm sure if you brought in many people in Ireland or people here in New York and asked them to name the trees or the grasses or the flowers around, they'd be looking at their iPads. That's the change that has to take place. And then we have to begin to ask ourselves, okay, how do I use fossil fuel? How about my use of water? How about do I create waste? So these are the kind of questions, individually and globally and community-wise. So I would like to see the churches, all the churches, not just the Catholic Church, because Laudato Si, unlike other encyclicals, Laudato Si is directed not to bishops, not to patriarchs, not to cardinals, to all the people of the world. And he says, this is a conversation. Everyone has to take part in it, because it's our world, and this is what's happening to it. So, in other words, what I'm trying to point out is this is a new spirituality. It's a new ethical framework for human living. And it's a very joyful one. It will enhance our lives if we follow it. And to say to people, yes, grasp onto this and follow this road. And it's a road that will bring you joy, and it'll bring you a real sense that I'm an earthling. We're part of this extraordinary world that God has created. And the most extraordinary thing about it is life. Everything around here is living. And that's awesome and wonderful.
I think that Father Sean brought out the urgency and how it really is the issue of the environment and the climate is intrinsic to Catholic moral teaching. And it is a sin to be degrading the planet.
And I think today's talk was very inspiring about also how with the Laudato Si really teaches us that there are things we got to really look back on that people forgot for a long time in the Catholic Church. They didn't realize, kind of forgot about how to interpret Jesus' teachings and also about St. Francis of Assisi's teachings.
I truly believe he did a wonderful job. Father did a wonderful job. This is one of my areas because I studied environmental laws, and I was very happy that the church is taking his part in helping saving the planet because this is truly what we were supposed to do in the first, from the beginning. God has entrusted it to us, and we need to do our part to protect it.